13 minutes past 7. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the leader of the Islamic State, was one of the most wanted men in the world. And then about a year ago, it was reported that he'd been killed. And those reports, it seems, were false. IS have just released an audio recording of him, allegedly made recently. Charlie Winters, Senior Research Fellow at the International Centre for the Study of Radicalisation at King's College, London. He's with me. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
You've heard the thing, obviously, the recording. What do you think? Is it his voice?
Yeah, I mean, he has quite a recognisable voice and a recognisable way of speaking, and it clearly, to me, is him.
And are there any clues as to whether it was recorded last week, last month, or maybe last year?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. I mean, he makes occasional references to things that place it in the last few months. He talks about North Korea, he talks about Japan, he talks about the Kurds in Iraq, but he doesn't talk about specifics. He also mentions that a lot of life, a lot of the mujahideen, as he calls them, have been lost in Raqqa, so kind of preempting the loss of that. But again, he doesn't talk about specifics. So to me, it seems that maybe it was something that was done a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago. They weren't quite sure when they were going to release it. And this is more important as a signal, him saying that he's alive, the Islamic State saying that he's alive.
Right, because I was going to say, does it matter very much?
To be honest, not particularly. I think this is just jihadi platitudes, really. He's saying that the Islamic State isn't going anywhere, that it's still winning, that it's not going to be defeated, that the enemies of Islam are all losing, even if it doesn't look like it. I mean, it's typical stuff, and he says this basically every year, and the Islamic State has been saying it.
And does the fact that he's alive or dead, does that matter very much? I mean, IS are being beaten as we speak, aren't they?
They are. So the importance of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi as so-called caliph of the organisation, he's a symbolic figurehead, and for that reason he's important. But the group over the last few years has cultivated a cult of the institution of caliphate rather than a cult of personality around Baghdadi. So if he goes, the organisation will remain and it will just appoint a new caliph. But of course, it would be a blow. I mean, people in the Islamic State, they like Baghdadi. They look up to him. They think that he is a divinely appointed successor to the Prophet Muhammad. But he is not the be-all and end-all of the organisation.
And with or without him, is the caliphate finished?
Sadly not. I think the only thing that Baghdadi is right about in this statement is that the Islamic State is not going anywhere anytime soon.
Meaning what, though? Because they can't hold out indefinitely in Raqqa, can they? Well, or can they?
No, they can't. So what we're seeing now and what we've seen over the last few months is the group hemorrhaging territory in Iraq and Syria. It lost lots of its territory in Libya last year as well, and it's generally contracting in the places that used to be most important to it. As it does that, though, it loses its USP. It loses the ability to say, look, we're an Islamic State. We have the utopia. We're delivering Islamic law, etc. So as that happens, it needs some other way to keep supporters interested. It needs some other way to define itself against other jihadist groups like Al-Qaeda. Now, to do that, it has to up its external operations. It needs to be more aggressive. It needs to agitate abroad
more aggressive than it's already been.
Yeah, I mean,
scary thought.
Yeah, absolutely. But we have to remember, and I think it's really important to think about this every time there is an attack, that terrorism for the Islamic State is propaganda, and it's as much about communicating with supporters, keep them interested, as it is about intimidating enemies.
I suppose in the ideal world, not suggesting this could happen, of course it can't, but in the ideal world, their activities wouldn't be reported, and then they'd wither on the vine, but it's not like that.
Yeah, I mean, we can't not report about terrorism, but what I think we can do is talk about the whys, not just the what and the how, but talk about the why. What is the strategic logic behind a given operation? Why does it make sense for the organisation to put its name to the killing of civilians?
Yes, what an interesting thought. Charlie Winter, thank you very much.
Thank you.